Hi Sonia, welcome to OUTdeBOX Live. It's a pleasure having you on the show today.
Great to be here.
And Sonia, just before we start and get to understand, so what does OUTdeBOX Live sound to you and mean to you?
Oh, it means a lot to me because basically my own life is very much out of the norm, out of the box. I am a very creative person. I do a lot of talking about, during my keynote speeches, about ultra creativity. My life has never been inside the norm or what people would expect. I'm a free spirit, I'm a free mind, and I totally believe in being creative, trusting yourself, and just unleashing your potential.
Wow. And I can see that from the energy coming from you. And so I wanted to ask you something, like we say everybody's creative, or we say when people grow up from childhood, we kind of get stereotyped into some format where we say you got to be like everyone, or the other way goes like you're so special and you get pampered out at families. Like kind of both the theories kind of are like extremes. What is your thought in terms of shaping up a creative mind? Do you think these kinds of thoughts?
I think it's a bit of a mix of both. I mean, obviously your upbringing, your parents, your surrounding has a big influence on anyone growing up. But also I think what really makes a big difference is if people learn to just trust themselves. Maybe not everyone is going to be the most creative person, but it could also mean that people just do things that they're good at, that where people learn how to follow their heart, how to focus on their strengths. Does it always have to be creativity in terms of I will become an artist? No, it doesn't. For me, I do a lot of keynote speaking about ultra creativity, and it's not so much a become an artist, become a crazy person. No, it's more really find the things that you're passionate about, that you're great at. Focus on your strength, listen to your heart, and just learn to trust yourself. And then take that very first step outside the comfort zone and pull through. That is the most difficult thing. That first step, and then having that determination to actually pull through.
Very, very, very true. And so just give me a little idea on how it's been for you, like from your nurturing childhood to where you are today. Like how has this influence worked in your life? Like how's been your start?
So I'm an identical twin, which definitely had a big influence on my life. My sister and me, we were basically able to do things probably a lot earlier than other kids, simply because it was always the two of us. Our parents could trust us that there was always the team and not just one kid running off doing something. So I actually had a very free childhood and with very trusting parents, which obviously helped me learn to trust myself and learn to develop my creative mind. During my teenage years and my university days, I spent a lot of time also overseas, spent a lot of time here in India, did some of my studies in Indonesia, living in a Muslim family, got fully adopted by them. So I've got 4 Indonesian brothers now, worked in New Zealand for a while. And then when I started my corporate career, also that wasn't just in Germany. We then moved to China for several years. I now live in Singapore, and I've been in Singapore for almost 6 years now. So all that international experience, influence, really had a big influence on me, because it gave me so many different perspectives on how people think, how people approach different situations. So for me, multicultural environments, intercultural experiences really are a big source for creativity.
True. I kind of really admire the experience that you've gone through. So is that a question, did you decide at some point of time, like, should I be the one, or should I be the creative one, or I'm the creative one, or I'm the chosen one? Do you feel at any point of time, or like people say like, oh, this kid is very creative, or she's very gifted, or they say you can never draw? It happens both ways.
I would say I just did what felt right. I mean, obviously, I'm not a Salvador Dali. I would not have made any money had I become a painter or like an artist in the music industry. Right. But I would still consider myself a very creative person in terms of developing creative concepts, developing marketing concepts, right. Thinking outside the box, finding solutions that might not be obvious. So that's where my creativity comes from. I might not be. So my creativity is more in finding solutions, in thinking outside the box, in just daring to think a lot further and being visionary. Creativity for me has so many different aspects. Some people are creative in terms of being arty. Some people are creative in the kitchen. Some people are creative with their gardening. For me, it's mentally creative, really thinking outside the box. That's what I call ultra creativity, just allowing your mind to just expand and think in a very visionary way.
Beautiful, beautiful. And what was the time in your life that you felt this charge was there, or did you feel this from childhood?
I never actually thought about it like that because it's always just been part of me. I mean, when I was a little kid, we created the most amazing board games, my sister. I mean, we invented things, and it was never a question of like, oh, I think we're very creative. It was just, we just had fun doing it, and it's just been part of my life, and I just appreciate having that strength, that skill level where my brain just does these creative things, and I just love it.
So do you think this play culture of, where you actually gamify or you play things around helps you to be more creative and try out things?
I think the most important thing is that you have an environment that doesn't constantly question you, that doesn't talk down your ideas. I've seen it in a lot of people that started off having some ideas, but they were so afraid of what their parents, their friends, their peers might say, that in the end they just didn't allow those thoughts to happen anymore. And for me, it's so beautiful to see, for example, when I talk about ultra creativity, and I sometimes just say, you know what? If you think it's a totally crazy idea, just spit it out. And then people spit it out and they're like, yeah, but it's, and you go, no, it's actually a beautiful thought. Maybe it's not totally refined yet. We need to work on it. But they're so surprised that all of a sudden there's potential in that thought and there's positive feedback. Right. So it obviously depends a lot also on your environment.
Yes, I completely agree on that front, because quite often we feel that if you don't get the right environment, and I always tell, even way back in my media life, and we used to be there. So the guy often the creative guy is the one who used to say, why not?
Yeah.
Vis-a-vis the guy who questions why, and the why not makes a lot of difference in. So how much?
Can I just step into that? Totally agree with what you're saying. I've always, in my corporate life, when I was the director of marketing for BMW in Asia, I always had that rule. Whoever said cannot in my team had to go down and buy chocolate for the entire team. For me, it's not cannot. It's always yes, let's try. And I always told my team, if you say, I'm scared, I don't know how, wow, I've never done something like this before, it's totally fine. Just do not say cannot. Don't ever allow those words to limit your beliefs and to limit the opportunities. Cannot, does not, or should not, cannot, should not exist. It should always be, wow, let's find a way. Wow, let's try. But believe in the possibilities, believe that things are possible. You will find ways.
Oh, I so agree, because I feel sometimes people limit these words to something, but then they are so powerful and magical, and suddenly you see a whole lot of magic happening around you. So, but I also see that this comes from a lot of, like you were the leader in the team, there's a lot of trust factor. When you play and you see there's a trust that you put into your team, and then the vis-a-vis the team also starts putting a lot of trust in you.
It always took some time. Like some people were quicker in allowing those creative thoughts to actually develop. Others took a bit more time, but it's been beautiful to see how everyone I've been working with, after a while I said, you know what? I'm actually allowing different thoughts to happen now. And I just came up with this idea. It might be totally crazy, but can I just share it with you? And it's so nice to see how when you have that spirit of ultra creativity and you allow it, how people start going different ways, taking steps that they would have not necessarily taken before, and how you can see that even people that you would have normally considered relatively conservative, uncreative, all of a sudden say, you know what, I had this idea, I had this thought, and all of a sudden their mind expands, and it's so beautiful to watch.
I completely agree, because I also do some workshops with leaders where like the art side of it, like I've seen so many top leaders, you know, they never touched a canvas in life, and you would see in a matter of a couple of hours they go crazy with the canvas, and I'm like, hey, like they're like, we never seen that guy do something like that. And it's like we feel like once they get out of that little comfort zone of, they shed that CEO image and they come out, and then the magic starts happening. So do you feel it's like you shed that little vulnerability side of, you kind of open up the vulnerability, that's when the creativity really opens up?
Yes, and I think people need to be in a safe environment. People need to understand that no one's going to laugh. I was responsible for many years for BMW globally for the naming and branding. So the way we did our brainstormings was always, no matter how silly your thought is, spit it out. And people would always say, but it's obvious that this is not. I'm like, I know that it's obvious that this is not the answer. But that silly thought might just trigger another thought in someone else. And quite often the most silly, stupid, bizarre thoughts actually brought us to
closer to the air.
And people in the end said, you know what, it actually worked. But in the beginning, I was so ashamed and irritated to spit out something so silly. I'm like, no, it's just a fun thought. It's just a thought that pops up. Share it. No one's gonna laugh. It's just one step further towards the end goal.
And I see from what you've been talking about, you know, quite resonates with what I also propagate and this thing. So how far do you see, I see this whole creative world is not just a one person's world, you know, it's a especially like you've been on the corporate side, you know, it's just not what you think, but it's a complete collaborative thing, you know, it's just, you have to get your ideas, you have to get, so it's like hundreds of ideas pouring in, you make everybody feel and own that idea, yet create a creative product. So how do you think this, do you believe collaboration is the future, and how do you see that?
It is, collaboration, as in many other fields, is important. With a creative approach, it depends on the people. Some people develop the most amazing creativity if they have a sparring partner. Others need to be more on their own to have creative ideas. It really depends on the people. I think both are equally valuable. You've just got to figure out how people work, how they think, and how to unlock their creative potential. That for me is also part of ultra creativity, to just see how do I unlock the creative power in that particular person. Is that person going to be able to say something if there's 10 other people in the room? Maybe not. But if you leave that person in a room with a canvas, they might just come up with a great idea. So it really depends on the personalities.
Yes, what you say is true. It's about kind of differentiating between this versus that to find. So I have a last final question that I'd say, do you think creative people are the happy people? And like I'm writing a book which I call it like Creative People Equal to Happy People.
Okay.
And I'm on a firm belief that because creative people kind of get stereotyped, they're like the very artisty, moody people, or like look at the creative singers, you know, they become alcoholics or substance abuse and stuff like that. But I'm on the firm belief that if you want to make this like sustainability goals are big in the world today. So if we have to make this world a more happy people, do you think creative people are the ones who can lead and make the difference and change?
I think so, but I think it depends on also how you define and how you communicate creativity. Creativity is not necessarily the Kurt Cobains or the super crazy artists. Creative people are the ones that don't allow limiting beliefs. So this for me is, We need visionary people to guide us in the future. We need people in the world who allow thoughts to be broader than just that narrow pathway. The world needs creative people. The world needs visionary people. The world needs people who think outside the box and to see beyond what they see on a daily basis, who don't say, oh, we've been doing this for 20 years, who rather say, you know what, we've been doing this for quite some time. Let's just think if there's a better way or a different way or more fulfilling way. So I truly believe that the world is ready for more creativity in terms of people who think outside the box and who allow their ideas and their visions and their minds to just flow.
Wow, wow, wow. I think you've kind of put a very beautiful structure to the whole thing, is to seeing where, and I see the future beautiful and people like you adding a lot of beauty to the world.
Thank you very much.
And I truly believe creative people like you can make this world a very happy place.
And you.
Thank you.
Here's to creativity.
Cheers.
Thank you so much.